Lena Petrova's dreams were filled with falling stars. For weeks, she had been haunted by the same recurring
vision. 6 tiny, desperate lights tumbling through the cold, silent void. She would wake up with her
heart pounding, the phantom sensation of a desperate, whispered plea echoing in her mind. Lena was a salvager, a mechanic, the sole human inhabitant of the remote asteroid mining station, prospectors claim. Her life was a quiet routine of repairing ore haulers and maintaining the station's aging life support. It was not a life that usually included vivid, emotionally charged dreams. She dismissed them as stress, as a symptom of the deep, profound loneliness of her isolated posting. But the dreams felt too real. Far across the galaxy, on the majestic world of Ethel Prime, those falling stars were a horrifying reality. The Ethel Guardians were a species of magnificent,
feathered griffins, their plumage shimmering with an internal, bioluminescent light.
Royalty was the literal heart of their civilization. The matriarch queen's 6 new hatchlings were not just heirs. They were the future of their species' psychic harmony. The priestess whispered that the hatchlings were perfect. But as Kalen reached for his communicator, a cold, wrong feeling washed over him. The ancient warding crystals in the airy flickered, their light dancing to an unnatural, dangerous rhythm. A frantic cry from a guard captain echoed in his mind through their psychic link. The commander was told of unidentified interference on the outer sensors. The readings were impossible. Before Kalen could respond, the lights in the sacred area began to dim. It was not a power failure. It was as if something was drinking the energy from the very air. The hatchlings sensed the alien disturbance, order, and began to cry out, their voices like panicked silver bells in a rising storm. He shouted an order, but his words were cut short. Every piece of technology in the chamber simply died. To gather the tiny griffins, but an unseen force pulled them away. The hatchlings floated as if carried, their cries growing fainter as they drifted towards the chamber's rear wall. That wall began to shimmer. Then,
in the wall sealed itself as quickly as it had appeared, leaving no trace that it had ever
existed. The chamber's technology flickered back to life as if nothing had happened. But the crystalline shells lay empty and broken on the floor. 6 royal hatchlings had vanished without leaving so much as a scale behind. Showing patterns that matched no known galactic species or technology. The wall that had dissolved and reformed showed no signs of tampering, no molecular displacement, no residual energy traces that their most sensitive equipment could detect. The narrator described the chief engineer's disbelief. The security systems were thought to be impenetrable, able to stop full military assault. Yet, something walked in and took the hatchlings without a single alarm. The matriarch queen herself arrived within hours, her massive, regal form radiating a cold, terrifying fury. The loss of her grandchildren was more than a family tragedy. It was a dagger pointed at the heart of their civilization. The narrator recounted.
Mobilize the fleets!
The queen's command to find them. He was to mobilize every fleet and contact every ally. He must interrogate every species. Someone, she declared, had stolen the future of their empire. They would pay with their stars. High Lord Kalen knelt, speaking carefully. He explained the evidence suggested an unknown species was responsible. The technology was beyond anything they had encountered. Kalen suggested they consider that the hatchlings were taken by a power they have never encountered before. The queen's eyes blazed brighter. She considered this terrifying possibility. An unknown species with such power was a threat. The queen then expanded the search beyond the known galaxy. She sent scouts to every unexplored system. She demanded answers, and she wanted her heirs returned. News of theft spread across the galaxy. The Ethel Guardian Empire was not known for its patience or restraint. When threatened, other civilizations worried about becoming targets. Scans. Meanwhile, in a distant, forgotten corner of space, a tiny, damaged escape pod drifted between the stars. The investigation began within minutes, but yielded almost nothing useful. The energy readings made no sense to anyone, showing patterns that matched no known galactic species or technology. The wall that had dissolved and reformed showed no signs of tampering, no molecular displacement, no residual energy traces that their most sensitive equipment could detect. The narrator described the chief engineer's disbelief. The security systems were thought to be impenetrable, able to stop a... Lena Petrova tossed restlessly in her sleep. Strange dreams filled her mind. They were images of small...
Arrived within hours, her massive, regal form radiating a cold, terrifying fury. More than a family tragedy. It was a dagger pointed at the heart of their civilization. The narrator recounted the Queen's command to find them. He was to mobilize every fleet and contact every ally. He must interrogate every species. Someone, she declared, had stolen the future of their empire. They would pay with their... High Lord Kalen knelt, speaking carefully. He explained the evidence suggested an unknown species was responsible. The technology was beyond anything they had encountered. Kalen suggested they consider that the hatchlings were taken by a new power they have never encountered before. The Queen's eyes blazed brighter. She considered this terrifying possibility. An unknown species with such power was a threat. The Queen then expanded the search beyond the known galaxy. She sent scouts to every unexplored system. She demanded answers, and she wanted her heirs returned. News of theft spread across the galaxy. The Ethel Guardian Empire was not known for its patience or restraint. When threatened, other civilizations worried about becoming targets. Ethel Guardian fleets appeared in system after system, demanding answers and conducting invasive
scans. Meanwhile, in a distant, forgotten corner of space, a tiny, damaged escape pod drifted between the stars.
Its hull was cracked and its systems were failing, but 6 small forms huddled together inside, sharing warmth and comfort as they projected their thoughts across the void, searching for someone who might help them. 3.
Weeks of searching had yielded nothing but frustration and growing tension across 12 star systems.
In orbit around hundreds of worlds, their massive hulls casting shadows over planets that had never seen such
displays of military might. Commander Theron stood in the command center of the flagship Eternal Flame, watching displays that showed negative results from every investigation. The intelligence officer explained that the Christine Collective knew nothing. Their thoughts were too structured to hide deception. The hive mind swarms were equally cooperative. The narrator explained that their collective consciousness could not conceal thoughts. Kalen nodded grimly, studying the star charts spread before him. The red markers indicated systems already searched. Yellow ones showed investigations still in progress. He was now dealing with an entirely unknown civilization. The Queen, enraged, ordered the search expanded to every primitive world. Among the species being investigated were the humans. A senior investigator noted their natural mental shielding made them difficult to probe psychically. This could theoretically allow them to hide thoughts. However, their technology was primitive and their society appeared genuinely peaceful. Kalen considered this information carefully. The human mental shielding was indeed unusual. Most species were either strongly psychic or fully open to telepathic intrusion. Humans existed in a strange middle ground, where their minds were naturally resistant to this, but they couldn't project thoughts outward. Kalen ordered investigation teams to all human colonies. They were to use the deepest scans available. He needed to know if they were hiding something. On the human colony world of New Haven, life continued as it always had. The mining operations ran on schedule. The agricultural domes produced their crops, and the small population went about their daily routines. The strange dreams that had started 3 weeks ago were growing more vivid. He was told he looked terrible by his neighbor, Beth, who brought him a sandwich. She asked when he last got a full night's sleep. He rubbed his tired
eyes and tried to smile, but the effort felt forced. He had claimed it was just weird dreams.
Nothing to worry about, really. But he knew it wasn't that simple. The dreams felt too real, too real. Sometimes he could swear he felt emotions that weren't his own. Fear, loneliness, hope, and something else that felt almost like calling out for help. During his work, he found himself pausing to listen for
sounds that never came. Looking toward empty corners of his shop, as if expecting to see something that
wasn't there. The whispers were getting stronger too. The narrator explained that his blood ran cold when he
found the evidence. The security chief's hushed tones revealed that General Mortex had requested private access to the
breeding chambers twice. He claimed it was for traditional blessing rituals, but there were no records of him actually entering the chambers. The security chief's voice dropped even lower, revealing that 3 guards reported equipment malfunctions. They were pulled away from their posts. All 3 malfunctions occurred within the same hour, and all 3
guards were personally selected for duty by Lord Valerius. The implications were staggering. If the general was involved in the disappearance of the hatchlings, it could only mean one thing. This wasn't a theft by outsiders,
but an internal coup attempt. The royal heirs weren't missing. They had been taken by someone who wanted to control their upbringing and use them for his own political purposes. "We need proof," Kalen said carefully, knowing that accusations against the Emperor's brother could not be made lightly. "Continue the investigation, but keep these
findings absolutely secret. If General Mortex is involved and he suspects we know, he might harm the hatchlings."
To prevent discovery. But even as the investigation continued, the 6 young dragons drifted further from their home world in their damaged escape pod. Their psychic calls for help grew weaker as their strength faded, but just their bond with a distant human mechanic grew stronger. Lena Petrova might not understand what was happening to him, but somewhere deep in space, 6 small beings had chosen her as their protector. The escape pod and systems failed one by one, but the hatchlings used their combined psychic abilities to guide their craft toward
the human colony systems, drawn by the protective instincts they sensed in Lena's dreams. They were coming home.
To a guardian who didn't even know she was waiting for them. Dawn broke over New Haven's industrial
district with the usual sounds of machinery starting up and workers beginning their shifts. But Lena Petrova had
not slept at all. The dreams had been so vivid that she'd given up trying to rest, and instead had spent the night organizing tools in her workshop, trying to distract herself from the increasingly urgent whispers in his mind. But something was different about today, though. The whispers had changed from desperate calls to what almost sounded like relief, mired with exhaustion and pain. As Roy moved between the workbenches, checking on the various mining equipment he was repairing, he noticed sounds coming from the heating ducts that ran along
the back wall of his shop. He thought it was the ventilation system, but the sounds were soft and
organic, like small creatures moving around. He opened an access panel, expecting to see a pest. Instead, he found himself staring at 6 pairs of the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen. The narrator described them as tiny dragons from ancient Earth lessons. They were no bigger than house cats, but perfectly formed. One of them, the one with sapphire blue feathers, slowly crawled toward the opening. It extended one small, clawed hand toward her in a clear gesture of trust. Lena extended her own hand, touching its feathers. Her mind exploded with images and emotions. She saw a grand, crystalline chamber and a desperate flight through space. The tiny griffin's name, she knew, was Hope. It projected more images into her mind, these ones darker. She saw a large griffin with silver-tipped feathers plotting in secret. The other 5 hatchlings slowly emerged from the ductwork. Lena learned their names and personalities through the psychic connection. She finally understood that she had been hearing their calls. They confirmed this with a wave of shared emotion, gratitude, relief, and a profound, unconditional love. They had searched across space for a mind that could shield them. Human mental patterns, chaotic and undisciplined, were naturally resistant to telepathy. Lena's powerful, protective instincts had drawn them to her like a beacon.
All right. Let's get...
You properly taken care of. He carefully lifted each hatchling from the ductwork, noting their various injuries and signs of malnutrition. Their escape pod had sustained serious damage during the journey, and they had been
surviving on minimal life support for weeks. They needed medical attention, proper food, and a safe place.
to recover. Lena's workshop wasn't exactly designed for housing royalty, but her human ingenuity kicked in as she began adapting the space for his unexpected guests. As she cared for them, Lena learned the full story. Their uncle, Lord Valerius, wanted to control them. He wanted to turn them into weapons instead of leaders.
A brave royal guard had sacrificed herself to help them escape. Lena's human creativity produced solutions that even advanced.
Ethel Guardian technology could not match. She built improvised shielding from mining equipment to mask their psychic signatures. She
searching, and some had good intentions. But if their uncle's people found them first, it would all be for nothing. Outside the workshop, Ethel Guardian patrol ships continued their systematic search, growing closer to Prospector's claim with each passing day. The investigation was about to reach the small, isolated asteroid station, and Lena would soon
have to face the might of a galactic empire. She had to protect 6 small beings who had
trusted her with their lives and with the future of their people. 2 days had passed since Lena discovered her unusual guests, and the workshop had transformed into something between a nursery and a fortress. The hatchlings were recovering quickly under her care, their injuries healing and their strength returning. As they adapted to their new sanctuary, Lena found herself learning more about dragon physiology and psychology than any human had ever.
So amazing how you fix broken things.
known. Hope, the sapphire-scaled leader of the group, had taken to perking on Lena's shoulder while she
worked. She was fascinated by human ingenuity and the way Lena could fix broken machines. She learned that the humans build things to be fixed. Valor, with his emerald feathers, had appointed himself as the group's guardian. Profound. Even the rumbling from the creatures on Fiona's shoulders seemed louder in the sudden quiet.
Per year. Conservative estimate, Fiona replied cheerfully. And that's just the
Kills we know about. These hunters are remarkably efficient at disposing of evidence. Bumptail's skin had gone completely white, and
a sign of shock in their species. They're so small. But size isn't everything in the predator.
Game, Fiona said, and suddenly her tone shifted to something more academic, more clinical.
let me show you what
We're really dealing with here. She approached the center of the presentation area and gently lifted one of the creatures,
the orange and white one, from her shoulder. It remained completely relaxed in her.
Observe the physical adaptations, she said, and suddenly her voice carried the authority of someone who knew exactly what they were talking about. Retractable claws made of keratin, harder than most synthetic materials. She gently pressed on the creature's paw, and 5 needle-sharp claws extended with surgical precision. They gleamed under the amphitheater's lights like tiny surgical instruments. He positioned himself near the workshop's main entrance and used his developing psychic abilities to scan for approaching minds. Her protective instincts reminded Roy of a watchdog, except this particular guard was capable of detecting threats.
Guides. Her golden scales shimmered as she absorbed information at a rate that left Lena speechless.
She had learned that human learning was different. It was slower, but more creative, building understanding through experimentation and innovation. Justice, her amethyst plumage dark as deep space, had become fascinated with Lena's moral decision-making process. Mercy, with
Her silver-white feathers, had developed a special talent for sensing Lena's emotional state. Honor, the smallest of the
group, with crimson feathers that pulsed like heartbeats, had taken responsibility for their sleeping arrangements. Lena began to understand that she wasn't just hiding refugees. The knowledge they shared was reshaping her understanding of the galaxy and humanity's place within it. Hope, the hatchling leader, told her that her people had something special. 2 days had passed since Lena discovered her unusual guests, and the workshop had transformed into something between a nursery and a fortress. The hatchlings were recovering quickly under her care, their injuries healing, and their strength returning. As they adapted to their new sanctuary, Lena found herself learning more about dragon physiology and psychology than any human had ever known. A psychic conversation began, with Lena explaining that her people build things that can be fixed when they break. Valor, with his emerald feathers, had appointed himself as the group's guardian. He positioned himself near the workshop's main entrance, using his developing psychic abilities to scan for approaching minds.
Wisdom spent most of her time exploring Lena's collection of technical manuals. Within hours, she had memorized the
specifications for every piece of equipment. Wisdom also showed her images of the great libraries on their home world. Justice, her amethyst plumage dark as deep space, had become fascinated with Lena's moral decision-making process. Mercy, with her silver-white feathers, had developed a special talent for sensing Lena's emotional state. Honor, the smallest of the group, with crimson feathers that pulsed like heartbeats, had taken responsibility for their sleeping arrangements. Lena began to understand that she wasn't just hiding refugees. The knowledge they shared was reshaping her understanding of the galaxy and humanity's place within it. Hope, the hatchling leader, told her that her people had something special, something they had never encountered before. She asked what that was. He was told that humans care about the individuals rather than just species. Wisdom explained that most galactic civilizations think in terms of populations and resources. But humans, she was told, form personal connections that transcend those boundaries. Lena considered this as she watched the 6 hatchlings settle into their makeshift nests. Each one had developed a unique relationship with her based on their individual personalities and needs. The narrator explained that their bond represented something new in galactic relations.
A friendship based on mutual respect, not political necessity. During their 3rd night, the hatchlings revealed more details
about the conspiracy. Lord Valerius had not acted alone. He had allies throughout the Ethel Guardian military who believed. Lena felt a surge of admiration for the dragon, who had sacrificed herself to save the hatchlings.
She was told that Captain Vale was the best of them. She had taught them that true strength comes
from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. As Lena listened to their stories, she began to understand the
full scope of what was at stake. These weren't just 6 young dragons. They were the future of an entire civilization. How they were raised would determine the Empire's future. The narrator noted that the hatchlings were indeed learning lessons that no royal education could provide. They saw how Lena treated everyone with equal respect regardless of their station. Meanwhile, Lena was retrofitting her workshop with increasingly sophisticated concealment measures. Using her knowledge of mining equipment and salvaged electronics, she had created a sensor-dampening field. She had been thinking
About something. She asked what would happen when their people finally found them. How could they make sure
they ended up with the right ones? This was the question that haunted all of them. The draconian search fleets were getting closer to New Haven. Eventually, they would arrive. One hatchling, Hope, told her that
They trusted her. Whatever she decided, they would stand by her choice. The narrator explained that the moment
have to face the might of a galactic empire. She had to protect 6 small beings who had
Narrator. High Lord Kalen, on the bridge of his flagship. He studied the peaceful human colony spread
across New Haven's surface. The settlements looked innocent enough. Mining operations, agricultural domes, and small residential districts where families lived simple lives. But his investigation had taught him to be suspicious of appearances. The order was given to begin deep scans of the entire colony. He ordered his crew to focus on areas with unusual energy readings or any structures that might be capable of hiding psychic signatures. He was certain that if the missing royals were here, they would find them. The scans began immediately. Powerful sensors probing every building and every basement, searching for any trace of draconian life signs. As the Ethel Guardian shuttles descended, Lena Petrova was still processing the full scope of the situation. Just then, a ground team arrived at her workshop. It consisted of 6 heavily armed soldiers, led by an experienced investigator named Captain Venn. He
demanded that the human open the facility for inspection immediately. Lena took a deep breath and opened the
main door. Her attitude was one of cooperative confusion, not guilty concealment. She asked the officers how she could help them. Captain Venn studied the human carefully. He noted her calm demeanor and her apparently genuine willingness to cooperate. The captain explained that they were searching for 6 missing individuals of great importance to
Orbital scans detected unusual energy patterns emanating from this specific location.
Pointed to a jury-rigged sensor dampener. She had built it to keep electromagnetic interference from affecting her precision. The explanation sounded plausible, but Captain Venn was a thorough investigator. Something about the situation felt incomplete. He asked to look around anyway, for standard procedure. As the search continued, one of the soldiers lingered.
Near the heating duct, his scanner was picking up something. Lena's mind raced, and she offered an innocent,
"We have a problem with space rats in that area."
Explanation about space rats. Captain Venn approached the heating duct with renewed interest. His own scanner detected the
same thermal patterns. He was told they were consistent with small, warm-blooded creatures. But there was something about
Open it!
The energy signatures that seemed familiar. He ordered the panel opened. His light shined into the space. He expected to see small scavenging animals. Instead, he found himself staring into 6 pairs of unmistakably intelligent eyes that reflected his light like precious gems. He recognized the missing royals immediately. The hatchlings emerged slowly, moving with the natural grace of their royal bloodline. Lena moved protectively closer to the hatchlings. Her human instincts were overriding any concern for her own safety. They were under her protection. She would not let just
anyone harm them. Captain Venn stared at the scene, amazed. Hope stepped forward and projected her thoughts directly
into the captain's mind. She showed him the truth about their disappearance, General Mortek's conspiracy, and their desperate Lord Valerius. The weight of the revelation. His understanding of the situation shifted completely as he absorbed the hatchlings' memories. His soldiers gathered around as Hope shared her story with all of them. They were shown how Roy had cared for the royal heirs without any thought of reward or political advantage. The human had risked everything to protect 6 beings he had never met before. The narrator explained that this changed everything for Captain Venn. The captain knew that if Lord Valerius found out they had located the royals, he would try to take them for himself. Lena stepped forward then, her protective instincts fully engaged. She stated that
maybe it was time to make sure the right people knew where they were. High Lord Kalen received
Captain Venn's encrypted transmission. The contents nearly made him drop his communication device. The missing royals had been found. They were alive and healthy, being protected by a human mechanic. He had uncovered a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of the Ethel Guardian military. He ordered all communications to be secured immediately. He wanted Lord Valerius's access to their command systems terminated. He needed a direct channel to the matriarch queen.
The evidence that Hope had shared through Captain Venn painted a clear picture of treachery and betrayal. Lord
Valerius had indeed been sabotaging the search efforts, using his position to ensure that the hatchlings would never
be found by loyal forces. His plan had been to eventually discover them himself and claim credit for
their rescue, giving him control over their upbringing and future. Within hours, loyal Ethel Guardian forces had moved
to arrest Lord Valerius and his conspirators. The Emperor's first meeting with Lena Petrova took place in the
human's modest workshop. She approached with surprising gentleness when she saw the hatchlings gathered protectively around their human
Guardian. The hatchlings immediately began sharing their experiences with their great-grandmother, projecting images and emotions that showed how
Lena had cared for them. The Queen observed that the human had taught them things. They carried themselves
differently than when they left our world. The hatchling, Hope, spoke for her siblings. She explained that Lena had shown them what it means to lead through service rather than command. Lena had protected them, not because she had to, but because she chose to. They had learned about courage that comes from compassion
rather than conquest. The Queen listened as each hatchling shared what they had discovered during their time with
Lena. Valor spoke of strength that protected rather than dominated. Wisdom described knowledge gained through experimentation rather than inherited memory. The narrator explained how the Queen processed this. These were not traditional royal lessons. Lena then spoke, saying that these 6 had the potential to be something more than traditional rulers. They could bridge the gap between species in ways that pure power never could. The Emperor studied the human who dared to suggest that royal education might be improved upon. But the evidence was undeniable. His great-grandchildren had learned
valuable lessons that no palace tutor could have provided. The narrator explained that Lena spoke honestly, caring for all
the 6 young beings who trusted her with their lives.
The Queen was genuinely curious about the humans.
Perspective. She was told to let them choose. They were old enough to have opinions about their own first education and their future roles. The narrator explained how the Queen turned to her great-grandchildren, seeing them through new eyes. She asked them what they would choose. The 6 hatchlings looked at each other, then at Lena, then back at their great-grandmother. Hope spoke for all of them. They wanted to learn about both their heritage and the wider galaxy. They wanted to understand how to bring species together, not keep some of them apart. And they wanted Lena to be part of their education, because she had taught them things they never would have learned otherwise. She asked if they would make the human their teacher. The hatchling. Wisdom, corrected her. Teachers provide knowledge, but friends provide understanding.
Nature of what her heirs were asking. The results, however, spoke for themselves. Her great-grandchildren had grown and all
learned in ways that traditional methods had never achieved. The matriarch queen announced her decision. Lena Petrova was named Royal Guardian to the heirs of the Ethel Guardian throne. She would be granted status as an honorary member of their court. She would have full authority to participate in their education and development. The narrator noted that Lena felt the weight of the honor. She protested that she was just a mechanic. But the queen explained that was exactly why she would be valuable. The arrangements that followed transformed both human and Ethel Guardian societies. The narrator described New Haven becoming an embassy world. The hatchlings
split their time between the crystal spires of their home world and the practical workshops of human space.
Lena found herself in the remarkable position of being the first human ever granted full access to Ethel Guardian. Royal education. In return, she taught the hatchlings and other young griffins about human ingenuity, about solving problems through creativity rather than raw power. Her simple workshop became a classroom where ancient wisdom met innovative thinking.
The 6 royal hatchlings grew into their roles as future leaders, with a unique understanding of what it meant to serve others. Years later, when diplomatic crises arose, it was often the dragon heirs who served
as mediators. Their human-influenced education had given them perspectives that traditional leaders lacked. Lena continued to work in her repair shop. But now, it served a dual purpose, as a training ground for young diplomats from across the galaxy. The friendship between a human mechanic and 6 royal dragons had become something larger. Understanding and compassion could bridge any gap, and that sometimes the most important lessons came from the most unexpected teachers. The galaxy was a better place, because one ordinary human had just
chosen to protect 6 extraordinary beings who needed her help.